The Galactic Union had been watching Earth for over 100 years, from far above. Humans looked small, emotional, and weak. Their bodies broke easily. Their lives were short. They fought each other over simple things: water, land, money. To the Union, they were just another primitive species, not dangerous, not important, just curious. Every species in the galaxy was studied and placed into categories. The strongest went into Class A. The smartest went into Class B, the peaceful. Ones went into Class C, and humans? They were placed in the lowest one, Class C, non-threat. No defense, no advanced tech, no leadership. Basically, a species you didn't need to worry about. The Union called it the cataloging. Every new planet got scanned, analyzed, and filed. Away Earth was no different. Its TV signals, radio waves, and internet traffic were all recorded. For a while, the aliens even enjoyed watching human entertainment. Old movies, news, war footage. It was funny to them. The Union said humans were like children, always angry at each other, always confused, but never truly dangerous. Then, one day, everything changed. It happened without warning. Earth's transmissions, everything stopped. No signals, no internet, no noise, just silence. It was like someone had pulled the plug on an entire world. At first, the Union thought it was a system error. Maybe Earth had just lost power or moved to a different kind of signal. But days passed, then weeks, nothing. Some scientists believed the humans had destroyed themselves. Nuclear war, maybe. Others thought it was a plague. A few said maybe they just gave up. But the truth was, no one really knew. Earth had simply gone dark, and that was strange. The Union didn't usually get involved with Class C species, but Earth had always been interesting, strange and emotional. Yes, but unpredictable. So, after months of silence, a small science vessel was sent to check. It was called the Serapis, and its crew was made up of peaceful explorers. No soldiers, no weapons, just scanners, translators, and notes. They weren't expecting a fight. They weren't even expecting life. They thought they would find a dead planet, but when they arrived, Earth didn't look dead. It looked quiet. To quiet. The cities were still there, ruined, broken, but standing. Roads were cracked, buildings covered in vines, but no signs of battle, no signs of fire or bombs, just silence. The crew started scanning the area, trying to understand what had happened. The first thing they noticed, no bodies. Not a single human body anywhere. Not in the cities, not in the houses. Just clothes, tools, old machines, and silence. It felt wrong, like something had cleaned the planet, but not in a natural way. Then they found the writing, scratched into the side of a metal wall in what used to be a subway station. The crew found a message in English. We were not the weakest. We were the angriest. And we remembered. The crew didn't know what it meant. Was it a warning? A lie? A message for someone else? They kept scanning. In the second city, they found something else. A lab, hidden deep underground, still powered by old generators. Inside were recordings, video files left behind. The explorers watched as human scientists talked to the camera. Their faces were pale, tired, angry. One of them spoke directly. They thought we were easy to break. But pain changes things. It makes you think faster, move harder, survive longer. They called us non-threats, but they forgot one thing: anger doesn't need weapons. It just needs time. And then, suddenly, the lights went out in the lab. The crew panicked. Their ship lost connection. Something was jamming their signals. Then one of the explorers screamed. Something had moved in the shadows. Something fast. Something tall. They tried to run. One by one, the crew disappeared. Not killed, taken. Only one escaped. A young alien translator named Velik. He ran through empty streets, hiding in broken cars, crawling through ruined homes, until he finally reached the ship and launched into orbit. When he returned to the Union, he told them everything. At first, no one believed him. They said he was scared, confused, maybe even sick. But he had brought something with him, a recording. It was short. Just a voice. Human. Cold. You watched us suffer. You watched us fall. Now we rise. We are not prey. We are the storm. That was the moment everything changed. For the first time in galactic history, the Union moved Earth from Class E to unknown status, No one wanted to go back, but everyone knew Earth hadn't been destroyed. It had transformed, and whatever came next would not be friendly. Velik, the translator who escaped Earth, couldn't sleep every time he closed his eyes. He saw the message on that metal wall. We were not the weakest, we were the angriest. The Galactic Union tried to move on. Reports were filed. Earth was marked as unstable, but no one dared return. Not after what happened to the crew of the Serapis. Their footage, the one Velik brought back, was locked away. Only a few were allowed to watch it. The screams, the darkness, that cold human voice, and for 6 months no one approached Earth again. Trade routes moved. Science missions were canceled. But curiosity doesn't die so easily. A new ship was built, this time with stronger sensors, better shielding, and emergency weapons. Its mission wasn't to explore, it was to observe. The ship was called the Lens, and it stayed in orbit above Earth, hidden by cloaking tech. Its crew didn't land. They didn't talk. They only watched. At first, they saw nothing. Earth looked like a grave. Empty cities, silent forests, oceans calm and untouched. It was hard to believe the stories were true. But then, movement. In one of the old cities, Chicago, humans used to call it something walked across a street. Tall, human-shaped, but not quite. It moved fast. Too fast. The crew activated zoom lenses and ran scans. But the figure vanished into a building before they could get a clear image. One of the crew, a young tech named Arian, said quietly, "They're still here." Later that night, more figures appeared. Dozens, walking through empty streets in total silence. No talking, no lights, no machines, just movement and shadows. One of them looked straight at the sky, at the exact spot where the cloaked ship was hiding. It didn't speak, it didn't move, just stared. The crew panicked. They shut off all signals, made the ship completely silent. But the figure kept staring for hours. And then, without warning, all of Earth's remaining satellites activated. They were old, rusty, half-broken. No one expected them to work, but they did. Every single one. They turned, rotated, pointed their old cameras toward orbit, and started broadcasting a single signal. The message was short, only 5 words: "You shouldn't have come back." The Lens tried to pull away, but it was too late. A powerful energy surge hit the ship. Lights flickered, engines failed. The ship started falling, slow but steady, pulled toward Earth. Panic broke out. The captain ordered all crew to escape pods. But as the pods launched, the same energy that pulled the ship now pulled the pods too gently, like a hand guiding them down. Each pod landed far from the others, separated, alone. Arian's pod crashed in the middle of a forest, thick with fog. The air was cold, too cold. The trees looked twisted, like they had grown in pain. She stepped out, holding her scanner close. No signals, no noise. She walked for hours, calling for help. No answer. But she wasn't alone. Footsteps followed her, always just behind. Every time she turned, nothing was there, but the air felt heavy, like someone breathing nearby. She found a road, cracked and covered in vines. Broken cars rusted in place. On the windshield of one car, someone had written in the dust, "Not prey, not forgotten." Then she saw a figure ahead, human-shaped, standing still, watching. She raised her scanner. No reading. Another figure stepped out of the shadows. Then another and another. All around her, silent figures formed a circle, faces hidden, no words. Arian dropped her scanner and raised her hands. A voice, low and full of fire, spoke from the darkness. "We asked for help. You gave us pity." Another voice joined. "We asked for peace. You watched us burn." And then a third. "You called us weak, but we were just waiting." The circle closed in, but they didn't hurt her. One of them stepped forward and placed a small device in her hand. A translator chip, human-made. She placed it in her ear, and the device activated. "Go back. Tell them the silence wasn't defeat. It was warning." Then everything went black. Days later, a rescue ship picked up a strange signal from Earth's orbit. One pod, one survivor, Arian. Her voice was quiet, shaking. "They're not gone. They're not weak. They've changed." When the Union asked what she meant, She said only one thing: they're not hiding anymore. They're preparing. That was the last mission to Earth. No one volunteered to go again. And somewhere, beneath the silent cities, the angry ones waited. For years, the Galactic Union stayed away from Earth. No more ships, no more scans. Silence became the new policy. No contact, no questions. But fear doesn't stay quiet forever. In a Union control room deep inside a space station, alarms suddenly began to flash. A signal had entered Union territory from Earth. It wasn't a call for peace. It wasn't a threat either. It was just coordinates. One single line of data. Everyone in the room stared at it. What did it mean? A trap? A message? 3 hours later, a human ship appeared at the edge of Union space. It was small. No fleet. No backup. Just one ship. But it wasn't built like the old human ships from the past. This one was darker, sharper. The engines burned blue fire. The metal looked melted and twisted, almost like it had been forged in rage. The Union sent out a communication request. No response. Then the human ship broadcasted its own message. A single voice spoke. Cold, calm. Human, you thought we were prey. You mistook our pain for surrender. You were wrong. The message ended. The ship didn't attack. It just waited. The Union sent fighters to surround it. The human ship didn't move until it did. In 1 second, it activated its weapons unlike anything Union ships had seen before. The energy blasts weren't just powerful, they were precise. It didn't destroy ships at random. It hit engines, weapons, communication ports, always in silence, always exact. And then, just like that, the ship vanished. No explosion, no wreckage. Gone. The fighters limped back to base. Their captains were pale, shaking. They said the ship didn't just fight back, it understood them. It had studied Union tech, used their patterns, predicted their moves, and outmatched them completely. That was the moment the Union realized something terrifying. Humans hadn't just survived, they had evolved. The Union had always believed that strength came from biology or ancient knowledge. But humans had something different: emotion, fear, pain, loss, and under all of it, anger. The kind of anger that doesn't fade. The kind that becomes fuel. Soon, more sightings appeared across the galaxy. Human ships, small, fast, unpredictable, not fighting for territory, not trying to conquer. They only attacked select targets. Union black sites. Prison colonies. Research labs that had once experimented on humans. Each time, they left behind no survivors, only one message, carved into metal. Walls or stone: we don't forget. We don't forgive. We return. Some Union members demanded war. Wipe them out, they said. End the threat now. But others were afraid. A Union diplomat named Keller spoke at a high-level meeting. His voice was steady, but his hands shook. They're not trying to rule us. They're trying to punish us. And they're doing it with perfect focus. The room fell silent. Because he was right. The humans weren't building an empire. They weren't interested in politics. Their attacks weren't random, they were personal. Calculated revenge, one race at a time. A former Union general once laughed in an interview, calling humans just loud animals with short tempers. The next day, his private ship exploded. In orbit, no trace of the attacker. Only a single piece of wreckage floated out into space with a message burned into it: we heard you. At this point, Union media started calling them by a new name. The burned. They weren't the same species. That had been cataloged long ago. They weren't the humans from TV shows and old war footage. These were something new, a people shaped by pain, rebuilt by rage. No one knew how many of them there were. No one knew where they were hiding. But they were out there. Watching. Waiting. And every so often or striking. Velek, the original translator from the Serapis, now lived in hiding. He didn't speak to media, didn't give interviews. But one day, a journalist managed to find him. She asked him, "What do you think they want?" He looked at her for a long time before answering. "They don't want land, or money, or power. They want to be remembered and feared. They want the galaxy to feel what they felt: helpless, alone, and angry." The journalist asked, "So, what do we do?" Velek whispered, "Pray they stop. Pray we've done enough to make them stop. But deep down, I don't think they're finished. I think They're just getting started. Far across the galaxy, in a hidden human facility carved deep into an asteroid, a young girl trained in silence. Her eyes were sharp, her arms were scarred. She wasn't old enough to remember the first attacks, but she remembered the stories, and she repeated them like a prayer before each mission. They hurt us, they erased us. Now we write our name in fire. And then she stepped into her ship. Asterisk, the Union thought hiding would keep them safe. They were wrong. 2 weeks after the asteroid attack, another signal was received. Not a transmission, an old human song, broadcast in deep space. The kind of music once played on radios during quiet nights on Earth. Soft, slow, sad. But behind the melody, there were whispers. Not in any known language. The Union's best code breakers worked day and night. Finally, they cracked it. The message said, "We are the ghosts of your mistakes." At first, it sounded like poetry, but then the disappearances began. One by one, small Union patrols vanished near old war zones. No wreckage, no black box, just gone. Like someone had erased them completely. The Union was in full panic now. Reports showed human ships appearing in places no one expected. Dead moons, abandoned mines, ancient battlegrounds. They never stayed long. Just came and went like shadows. In one case, a security drone caught footage of a human stepping out of a black ship. No armor, no gun, just a coat and a calm walk. He looked directly into the drone's lens and said, "You forgot about us. That was your first mistake." Then the screen cut to black. That footage spread like fire across Union networks. Most leaders tried to ban it. Others said it was fake, but the people believed it. Because deep down, they knew this wasn't a war. This was judgment. The Union had ruled the galaxy for centuries. They were powerful, organized, logical. But they had one weakness. They believed in control, in order, in peace through domination. And they never understood one simple truth. Humans don't stay broken. They rebuild, they adapt. And when you leave them behind, they come back with fire in their veins. A secret meeting was called inside Union High Command. Only 6 officials attended. No aides, no security. They needed a plan, a way to deal with the burned. But no one had answers. One admiral slammed his fist on the table. "They don't want peace. They want revenge." Another whispered, "Maybe they deserve it." Silence fell over the room, because no one wanted to admit the truth, but it hung there, heavy and dark. The Union had failed them, on a lonely planet far from Union space. A scientist named Luray was running tests on an old human artifact, one recovered from Earth long ago, a device humans had once used to store data, a hard drive. She connected it carefully, curious about what stories it might hold. But what she found wasn't a file. It was a program, still active, still running. A countdown. When she activated it, a hologram appeared, a human face, tired, scarred, but calm. If you're seeing this, then it means we're not dead. It means we learned, we waited, we endured. The hologram leaned closer. "We watched your meetings, we listened to your jokes, we heard you laugh at us, and now you'll hear us." Suddenly, the lab's power surged. The doors locked, lights flickered. Every screen displayed one sentence: "We are the silence between stars." The signal vanished. The planet went dark. And the Union lost contact with Luray forever. Back at the center of Union space, panic spread like wildfire. Colonies prepared for attack. Ships were moved. Defenses activated. But no attacks came, just more messages. One appeared on every major screen in a Union city, short, quiet, with the face of a human child. She smiled. "Do you remember what you did to us?" The screen went black. Another message came 3 days later, across a mining station. This time, it wasn't a human. It was a Union soldier. Crying. He whispered, "They didn't kill me. They made me see everything we did. I didn't know. I didn't want to know. But now I do." He looked straight at the camera. "They're not monsters. We are." The Union tried to shut the message down, but it was too late. People were already asking questions. What did we do? What were we hiding? And why are they so angry? A rumor began to spread that long ago, when Earth first made contact with the Union, they asked for help, asked for protection. And the Union said no. Worse, they used them. Experiments, surveillance, mockery. They called them animals, and now the animals had become hunters. Far out on the edge of a quiet galaxy, the same young girl from the asteroid stepped into a war room. She was no longer training. She was leading. Around her stood others older, stronger, wiser, all burned by history, all carrying pain like armor. She spoke one line before the next mission began. They cataloged us as weak. Let's rewrite that file. And so they did, one strike at a time. The attacks became patterns that no one understood at first. The burn didn't target military centers. They didn't go after politicians or major fleets. They attacked memories, places connected to Earth's past. An old outpost where humans were, once studied like animals. A floating prison where human refugees had disappeared. A science station where a failed integration program left thousands lost in space. Each one destroyed with exact, surgical strikes. No civilian deaths, no random destruction. Just targets and messages. One such message appeared in a transmission leak after a hit on Research Station 7. It showed the moment before the strike. A single burned pilot face covered sent a voice recording to the Union Command Center. You called us unstable, emotional, weak. You were half right. Pause. We do feel deeply, and we remember everything. Then the station exploded in silence. No fire, no sound, just gone. Inside Union halls, fear turned to confusion. The burned weren't acting like terrorists. They didn't boast. They didn't broadcast their power. They just executed justice and vanished. The Union's top strategist, a cold and brilliant mind named Commander Fell, was asked to explain the threat. He studied the attacks, the behavior, the silence. Finally, he spoke. We didn't create enemies. We created purpose, and purpose is impossible to kill. No one clapped. No one argued. They all understood what he meant. Because you can fight soldiers. You can fight ships. But how do you fight a belief? How do you stop a species that thinks pain is a lesson and revenge is duty? Across the galaxy, younger races began to question the Union. Messages appeared in black markets and quiet corners of the network. The humans remember. If they burn with focus. Don't be the reason they come for you next. Rebellion spread, but not because the burned asked for it. They never asked for help. They never recruited. They never begged. They just moved like a storm with memory. And each new attack showed one thing clearly. They were learning, evolving, getting faster, smarter. In a moon colony once used for human resettlement, a lone child survivor of an attack was questioned by Union agents. She had no wounds, no injuries, just a strange, glowing symbol burned into the wall near where she was found. When asked what the burn said to her, the girl whispered, "They said I was free now." Then she started crying, not from fear, but from something deeper. Hope. Back in the core of the burn's hidden territory, somewhere between fractured space and abandoned jump gates, a council of them gathered. Not a government, not a court, something older, something built on grief. Each member had been broken once, betrayed by the Union, forgotten. Now, they watched data from the galaxy flow through their black screens. Messages from those who once mocked them, pleas for peace, offers for alliance, even apologies. None were answered. Not yet. Because the burned didn't want words. They wanted something else. Recognition. The kind that's carved in fear. The kind remembered for generations. Not just as survivors, but as something more. A new member of the burned, a former Union engineer who had defected after seeing the truth, asked his commander, "What's the end goal? Is it revenge or justice?" The commander, a scarred woman once left for dead on a failed Union colony, answered simply, "Justice is what they promised. Revenge is what they earned." Back in Union space, the cracks grew wider. Stations locked their own gates. Colonies stopped answering calls. People were no longer afraid of the burned. They were afraid of being mistaken for Union loyalists. Fear flips sides quickly. Some Union leaders resigned. Others vanished. And in the chaos, a message appeared this time from the burned themselves. It was broadcast across every Union channel without warning. A full takeover. Black screen, then white text glowing slowly. This is not a war. This is a lesson. Cut to a recording, a list of every colony, station, and research base where humans had once been mistreated, with dates, logs, names, everything. The Union thought was buried. All revealed. The final frame of the message. A child's drawing an Earth sunset, with stick figure people holding hands. Below it, 6 words: "You made us monsters. We learned." Then silence. No response came from the Union. Not this time. Because deep down, they knew the truth. The burned weren't attacking the galaxy. They were reminding it. Reminding every species what happens when you crush a people so hard that even hope turns into fire. And out there, in the cold, the burned kept moving. Not as soldiers. As memory with teeth. Asterisk. There was a time when the Union held every secret. They erased files, deleted names, burned entire events out of history. But the burned hadn't forgotten. They had collected every moment, every file, every voice that had once cried out in pain and been ignored. And now, they were releasing them one by one. The first release came quietly. A secure database on a Union academic server was overwritten. Not destroyed. Rewritten. On every terminal, a new folder appeared. It was titled, "Do Not Forget Us." Inside were thousands of personal logs, recordings from early human prisoners, messages from colonists who had begged for help, and secret audio from Union scientists laughing during failed human integration tests. The files spread like wildfire. Every major colony downloaded them. They couldn't be deleted. People tried. They always came back. Someone had made sure of it. The Union called it cyberterrorism, but the people called it truth. Suddenly, Union citizens were forced to ask hard questions. What did we do? Why weren't we told? Why do the burned still suffer while we move on like nothing happened? Across Union space, statues were torn down. Old leaders once called heroes were exposed as the architects of the pain. Universities canceled lectures. Protests began in places where order once ruled. In the middle of it all, a young Union historian, Jorland V., stepped forward. He wasn't aligned with the burned. He had never even met one. But he had read the files, and it changed him. He made a public speech that echoed across 3 systems. History isn't written by the winners. It's written by the ones who survive long enough to tell it. He paused, and the human survived. His message ended with one sentence: "We need to listen before it's too late." But maybe it already was, because at that same moment, deep in the ruins of a forgotten human Station 1 that had been used for force testing, a new burned weapon was being activated. Not a bomb, not a virus, a beacon. It pulsed with old Earth code, calling out to something the Union had never discovered. Hidden tech, the kind buried long before the burned ever fought back. Something ancient. And something human. One of the burned engineers stood over it as it activated. Her name was Malin. She had been taken from her family at age 7, raised in a Union camp. She didn't remember laughter, only glass walls and cold metal. Now, she watched the beacon light up with slow, golden pulses. She whispered to it like it was alive. "You waited for us. Now we're ready." The signal reached far past normal comms, past warp gates, and something answered. Far beyond the Union's charted territories. A long-dead Earth ship, one thought lost, awoke. Its engines hummed. Its lights turned blue. It had no crew, but it had a mission. It turned quietly and began moving back toward the galaxy that had once broken its people, back toward the Union, and back toward home. Inside Union command, alarms lit up across the board. An unidentified signal had entered their long-range sensor. Range. Not a fleet. Not a message. Just a ship older than anything they recognized. But it carried human code. They tried to intercept it, but every ship that approached it vanished. No explosions, no trace. Just silence. Panic spread again. The Union couldn't fight what they didn't understand. And worse, they didn't know how much more the burned had recovered. The burned never explained. They never made threats. They simply activated history, one piece at a time. Soon, every planet that had once held human prisoners found something new. Underground, tunnels, devices, markers from the old world, signs that the humans had been planning long before they ever fought back. the Union began to understand. This wasn't just anger. This was a legacy, a design built in the shadows. Pain turned into structure. Rage turned into strategy. And all the Burned had done was wait for the right moment. And now that moment had come. Back on Earth, long abandoned. Thought dead, a single satellite blinked back to life. Its code was old, its systems unstable, but its message was clear: we are still here. The sky above Union Prime had never been dark. Billions of lights from ships, satellites, and towers lit the night like a second sun. But now, the sky was silent. The traffic lanes were empty. The defense grid, once called unstoppable, was offline. And every citizen was watching, because above them floated a ship not built by the Union. It wasn't large. It wasn't armed, but it pulsed with something more terrifying than any weapon: memory. It was the old Earth vessel, the one lost for centuries. It had arrived without warning. It hovered above the capital in total silence that no fleet dared to attack it, because every Union warship that had tried had simply vanished. No blast, no wreckage. Just silence. Then the ship spoke, not in sound, but in light, across every screen. Every speaker, every implanted translator, the same voice whispered, "You watched us burn. Now you watch us return." The Union called emergency meetings. Debates raged. Some wanted to surrender, others demanded retaliation. But there was nothing to fight, because the Burned never came with armies. They came with proof. One by one, the sky lit up with projections, holograms showing scenes the Union had hidden for generations. A child separated from her family and marked with a number, a human colony, promised peace, then left to starve, soldiers laughing as they watched, prisoners cry for help that never came. No commentary, no speeches. Just truth. And then came the last projection, a single room, white walls, a young girl curled up, cold, barely breathing. Her voice, weak, echoed across the city. "If no one sees, U.S., did we ever exist?" Silence followed. Not from shame, but from fear. Because the Union saw clearly now. They hadn't defeated humanity. They had paused them. And that pause had ended. Elsewhere, across the stars, other Union colonies began opening their gates. Not to fight. To surrender. Not out of loyalty, but out of guilt. Many were not innocent. Others had stayed silent for too long. And now the silence had turned on them, on the ground. Near the base of the old Union high tower, a single human figure stepped out of the shadows. Not a soldier, not a leader, just a woman, burn marks across her arms, hair cut short, eyes full of fire. She walked calmly toward the gates. Guards raised their weapons, but they didn't fire. She looked up at the tower that once controlled her people's fate, and she said one sentence: "You built this on our backs. Now feel the weight of our memory." The tower lights flickered. Power systems dropped. Inside, every file erased by Union command reappeared. Screens lit up with names, faces, crimes, and the words, "History writes itself now." In that moment, the Union finally broke. Not with a war, but with truth they couldn't bury anymore. The ship above disappeared, leaving behind only a small device. Inside was a message: "This is not conquest, this is balance." That day, the Burned didn't take over. They didn't destroy the Union. They did something worse. They made them remember. Years passed. The galaxy changed. The Union became smaller, less powerful, but more honest. New leaders rose, not from old families or rich bloodlines, but from survivors, from those who had once been forgotten. Humans were no longer a rumor. They were a people of legend, of warning, of fire. And they never asked for revenge again, because they had already taken it, not through war, but through awakening. On a distant world, a group of young children sat under the stars. One of them pointed up and asked, "Do you think they'll ever come back?" An elder, his body still marked by old scars, nodded slowly. "They never left. They just wait now, watching." The child looked confused. "Why?" The elder smiled, his voice soft. "Because they learn pain better than anyone, and pain taught them patience." The child looked at the stars again, and in one corner of the sky, far and faint, a small blue light blinked. Watching. Always watching.